इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चात दिशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिविचार्य स्तोत्र डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिविचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत स्वयं महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तों की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर धाम की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर नबी धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा मई जमुना मई की जय, तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Guru and Gaurang.
Welcome everybody to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. It is Tuesday, July 8th. Today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 19, Text 4, if that aligns with what you have. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 4. Anvito Brahma Sarvabhyam Lokapale Sahan Nugai Upagi Yamano Gandarver Munibis Trapstaro Ganai. Translation. When Lord Vishnu appeared in the sacrificial arena, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the chief predominating personalities of every planet, as well as their followers, came with him. When he appeared on the scene, the residents of Gandharvaloka, the great sages, and the residents of Apsaraloka all praised him. Any comments, or should we continue? And is my volume okay?
Your volume's fine, and I have no comments.
Okay. Moving on to text 5. Siddha Vidyadhara Tatya Dhanava Guyaka Daya Sunanda Nanda Ramukha Parsada Pravara Hare. Translation. The Lord was accompanied by the residents of Siddhaloka and Vidyadhara Loka, all the descendants of Diti, and the demons and the yakshas. He was also accompanied by his chief associates, headed by Sunanda and Nanda. Comments there? Guru Maharaj and others? Okay. We have something in the chat from Praveen Prabhu. Dayas, demons, and yakshas accompanied the Lord? Question mark. Well, exclamation point and question mark.
Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutade Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatale. Yes, I was noting that there's a verse in the second canto how Vaikuntha is praised both by the demons and by the demigods and demons. So we find that here he's praised by the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Daityas, and the Danavas, and the Yakshas. So yes, it's astonishing, but that's what's said. The Siddhas, Vidyadharas, we can understand. Daityas even, among the sons of or descendants of Diti. Yes, even they honored the Lord. And the Guyakadaya, the Yakshas, they're followers of Yaksharaj, that Kuvera. So they're, in one sense, a kind of semi-god. Danavas, the demons even, we just take it. This is the version of Bhagavatam. I don't have any further insights about why the Daityas and the Danavas particularly would be included among those who are glorifying the Lord. Well, we're accompanying the Lord, but that is the statement of the Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Now we're on text 6.
But I'm just thinking, what is that first? Dane Rishikesha Tava Prakirtya Kritya Anurajyate Cha Rakshansi Vitani Tishodravanti Jagat Purvishyat Anurajyate Cha. Yes. So the Arjuna says everyone is praising you, except for the Rakshasas. But here, even the Daityas and Danavas. All right. Hare Krishna.
Topic Guru, are you available? Would you like to read text 6? Oh, I missed something in the chat from Praveen Prabhu.
He's just missing words in the verse.
Oh,
Jagat Purishyat Janarajyatecha.
okay.
I can go ahead. Number 6. Kapilo Narado Daityo Yogesha Sanakadaya Taman Antvit Yu Bhagavata Yecha Tatsveno Sukkaha. Great devotees who were always engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as the great sages named Kapila, Narada, and Dattatreya, and masters of mystic power, headed by Sanaka Kumara, all attended the great sacrifice with Lord Vishnu. It's interesting how they all got the message that this sacrifice will be going on, and they all gathered. So they have a greater information system, I guess, in upper planetary system. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yatra dharma duda bhumi sarva kama duda sati yog dogdi sambhi pastina arthan yajamanasya bharata. My dear Vidura, in that great sacrifice, the entire land came to be like the milk-producing Kamadhenu, and thus, by the performance of yagna, all daily necessities for life were supplied. Purport. In this verse, the word dharma yugda is significant, for it indicates Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu is also known as Surabhi. Surabhi cows inhabits the spiritual world. And as stated in Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is engaging in tending these cows. Surabhira abhipalayanam. One can milk a Surabhi cow as often as one likes, and the cow will deliver as much as one requires. Milk, of course, is necessary for the production of so many milk products, especially clarified butter, which is required for the performance of great sacrifices. Unless we are prepared to perform the prescribed sacrifices, our supply of the necessities of life will be checked. Bhagavad Gita confirms that Lord Brahma created human society along with yagna, the performance of sacrifice. Yagna means Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and sacrifice means working for the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, however, it is very difficult to find qualified Brahmins who can perform sacrifices as prescribed in the Vedas. Therefore, it is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yagnai Sankirtanai Prayaha, that by performing Sankirtan Yagna and by satisfying the Yagna Purush, Lord Chaitanya, one can derive all the results derived by great sacrifice in the past. King Prithu and others derived all the necessities of life from the earthly planet by performing great sacrifice. Now, this Sankirtan movement has already been started by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. People should take advantage of this great sacrifice and join in the society's activities. Then there will be no scarcity. If Sankirtan Yagna is performed, there will be no difficulty, not even in industrial enterprises. Therefore, this system should be introduced in all spheres of life, social, political, industrial, commercial, etc. Then everything will run very peacefully and smoothly. Here, Prabhupada indicates the importance of Sankirtan movement. We all have to do some kind of sacrifice. So might as well do the sacrifice as prescribed for this age of Kali. Just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And it says that everybody will be satisfied. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Again, we're reminded of that verse from first canto where we see the line Sarva Kama Dukkha Mahi. The earth is the source of satisfying all the desires of all living entities. We saw that graphically represented in previous chapter where the earth becomes a cow and all the different categories of living beings derive their necessities by milking the figurative cow, the earth, and getting everything that they need, even to the point where the demons are getting their beer from the earth. After all, the earth is supplying the grains that become beer. So that comes from the earth. Everything. Apipsitan, Artan, everything is provided. So there should be cooperation in this system. Otherwise, what is that? Sahayagya Prajashrishva Purovajra Prajapati. The Lord Brahma creates human beings along with sacrifice. Anena Prasavishad Vam Eshavo Strishta Kamatuk. If you perform yajna, you'll get everything you need. That's Lord Brahma's assurance. So the Sankirtan Yajna fulfills that need. It's the congenial form of sacrifice for Kali Yuga. Very pleasing, and so many problems will be solved. Just as we find in our personal life, we may have so many problems, but if we sit and do Sankirtan, if we just chant the holy name with other devotees, then so many problems become insignificant. We become happy, we become satisfied. So that can happen for everyone. And then when there's kirtan, then there's always prasadam, and people become very happy to get nice Krishna prasadam. So this program of sacrifice is very nice. Those who are engaged in the kirtan yajna will get happiness. And because the Lord is pleased by sacrifice, there'll be abundance. That's the assurance here. There'll be no shortage of anything. The only shortage now is shortage of Krishna consciousness. And that shortage creates so many problems. But if when Krishna consciousness prevails, that consciousness of Krishna will ensure that there's enough of everything, an abundance of everything. And there's a comment in the chat.
Okay. Yes. Praveen Prabhu writes, since Lord Vishnu came to the sacrifices must have been an important way of devotional service at that time.
Yes. Since Lord Vishnu came to the sacrifices must have been, that was the prescribed method. Chaitayam Yajito Makai, in Treta Yuga especially, sacrifice was the means of performing devotional service. But in Kali Yuga, Hari Kirtan, Kalo Tad Hari Kirtan. There's another comment.
Praveen Prabhu writes, in my limited understanding.
You were loud before and now you're not.
Praveen Prabhu writes, in my limited understanding, Vena's sins are nothing compared to the sins committed by the people of Kali. Yet the earth withhold her produce when Vena ruled, but there is ample produce today. How do we understand this?
Well, the earth can respond in different ways. At that time, she responded by withholding. Now we find many other kinds of difficulties on the earth. Sometimes there is food shortage, but right now there's a sort of insidious food shortage because there's food, but it's funny kind of food. It looks like food, but then it doesn't have the nutritional power. It doesn't have, it lacks taste, it lacks power, vitality. So but it looks like we're getting food enough, but these problems are there. And then additionally, there's so much quarreling and war and other kinds of trouble and discord. So we're getting, but we're suffering. And in the future, we don't know what kinds of difficulties will be there. Even the water, by the way, we're talking about food, but the water also. We have a devotee, Nityananda Ram. He said his mother was healthy all of her life, and then she suddenly declined like anything. And he had sufficient money. He hired the best specialists, trying to find out what the problem was. And the best specialists said, city water. City water. That was there's someone was telling me there's a process called cracking the water by which scientists can analyze what's in the water, and you get different levels of stuff in it. And in the city water, there's this layer of yellow at the top. And we won't go into what that would be. But that the water that we're getting is appears to be, and even the bottled water, it's bottled, but it's bottled in plastic, and plastic is entering everything. So we're gradually destroying our own environment, our own world. The earth doesn't have to do it. We're doing it to ourselves. And these are some thoughts.
Mesh, Pandit Prabhu, are you able to take hosting?
Sure,
here?
yeah, no problem. Okay, on the chat box, we have ample. Panchatattva Prabhu says, ample produce. Ample produce? We think it's ample depending upon our personal circumstances. Kaliyu, ample. And Saraswati Mata said, natural resources are depleting at an alarming rate. It's due to Sankirtan Yagna that things are held in somewhat of a balance. Yes. Then Murari Gupta said, nature is also responding with natural disasters, which are increasing. Yeah, that's for sure.
We saw, was it last summer when that's smoke clouds descended from Canada over the a big chunk of North America. Fires created smoke, and smoke was everywhere. It was interrupting airline flights and so on. So it's an indication of how large-scale difficulties can come upon human society, and we become practically helpless. What can we do?
Praveen says, thank you, Maharaj. And I would like to invite Panchatattva Prabhu.
Well,
Yes.
text
Number
8.
Yes. 8. Yeah.
Uhu Savarasanadja Chira Dadyana Gorasan Taravabhuri Varshmana Prasuyanta Maduchyutaha. The flowing rivers supplied all kinds of tastes, sweet, pungent, sour, etc. And very big trees supplied fruit and honey in abundance. The cows, having eaten sufficient green grass, supplied profuse quantities of milk, curd, clarified butter, and similar other necessities. Purport. If rivers are not polluted and are allowed to flow in their own way, or if sometimes allowed to flood the land will become very fertile and able to produce all kinds of vegetables, trees, and plants. The word rasa means taste. Actually, all rasas are tastes within the earth. And as soon as seeds are sown in the ground, various trees sprout up to satisfy our different tastes. For instance, sugarcane provides its juices to satisfy our taste for sweetness, and oranges provide their juices to satisfy our taste for a mixture of the sour and the sweet. Similarly, there are pineapples and other fruits. At the same time, there are chilies to satisfy our taste for pungency. Although the earth's ground is the same, different tastes arise due to different kinds of seeds. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:10, Bijam mam sarvabhutanam. I am the original seed of all existences. Therefore, all arrangements are there. And as stated in Ishopanishad, Purnam idam, complete arrangements for the production of all the necessities of life are made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People should therefore learn how to satisfy the Yajna Purush, Lord Vishnu. Indeed, the living entity's prime business is to satisfy the Lord, because the living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. Thus, the whole system is so arranged that the living entity must do his duty as he is constitutionally made. Without doing so, all living entities must suffer. That is the law of nature. The words Taravu Buri Varshmanaha indicate very luxuriantly grown, big-bodied trees. The purpose of these trees was to produce honey and varieties of fruit. In other words, the forest also has its purpose in supplying honey, fruits, and flowers. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, due to an absence of Jagya, there are many big trees in the forests, but they do not supply sufficient fruits and honey. Thus, everything is dependent on the performance of Jagya. The best way to perform Jagya in this age is to spread the Sankirtan movement all over the world. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayādvaita Swamin Iti Namine. Hearkening back to discussion from the previous verse, we see things in context of our own circumstances. We think, oh, we have decent arrangement. And then when we read in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam what the world was once like, it almost seems like another planet. The cows are protected and happy, giving huge amounts of milk, not being tortured and machines and all the other things that are done to the poor animals. The trees are enormous and providing all kinds of fruits. When Muchukunda comes out of his cave, he finds, of course, he was a king who was battling on behalf of the demigods in a previous yuga. And as the story goes, his one boon, his one particular request was that he be allowed to rest sufficiently after this great endeavor. So he had been resting, and then by the design of the Lord, he was awakened by a demon of the name, what was that demon's name?
Kalyavan.
Kalyavan. And then Krishna came and he got the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when he came out of the cave, he found that the trees were all shrunken. They're all like, much reduced in stature compared to what he was familiar with. But to the residents of the time, the trees, everything is normal. Everything is normal. This is acceptable. The trees are so big. And like now we think, big oak trees are very big trees, but everything is reduced. And because we're conditioned to think this is all very normal, we may read the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and think, oh, that's a fantastic story. How is it possible? But it's due to our conditioning and our lack of insight that we misunderstand things, we misapprehend things. We can get the truth from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, both about the material nature and its source, and our source. And in so doing, we can take up the Sankirtan Yagya, which is meant for this age, and satisfy, and all needs are satisfied. I also marked in this purport that we this particular sentence, thus the whole system is so arranged that the living entity must do his duty as he is constitutionally made. We are made for this. We are made to perform sacrifice. It's actually part and parcel of our fundamental nature to act in this responsible way. And when we don't, as Srila Prabhupada points out in the very next sentence, all living entities must suffer. That is the law of nature. Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj, would you like to say something?
I'm reminded of my visit to Melbourne a couple of decades ago. And the water there was amazing. It had such a taste that you'd want to go on drinking it and drinking it. And by drinking it, you would get an appetite. It was just amazing water. I heard that Srila Prabhupada also remarked on the quality of the water. It was like nothing within my experience before or since. The water was so tasty. And that's what water is supposed to be. But elsewhere, recycled, treated, chlorinated, or whatever they put in it. And even now, when I went back, the Melbourne water is just ordinary. It's the same as every place else. But you can imagine what it would be like to have that kind of world. Now the rivers, the Hudson, the East River, Mississippi, you can't drink that water. It's all full of pollution and who knows what. But you can imagine what the Hudson River must have been like in the time of the American Indians. How wonderful that river must have been, as the Ganges is to North India. How that Mississippi River water must have been beautiful, practically fragrant, clear, and now it's all rubbish. So we know this. It's common knowledge that we're destroying. People are up in arms about that. People are stoked, as they say, about that, because it's their own sense gratification that's being impeded. But they have various, how they want to deal with it will not solve the problem. Still, despite all the public outcry and this and that, still the resources of the world are being misused, and without the consciousness that Krishna is the owner and true enjoyer of all these things, that we owe a debt to personality of Godhead for the gifts that we're receiving. And so everything will, as you pointed out, everything has dwindled. Uchakunda comes out of his cave and sees everything is small. And so he understands that the running age is Kali Yuga. The people are small, the trees are small, everything is diminished. So that will continue, and people will become increasingly cannibalistic and inflict suffering upon one another. The demigods will inflict suffering in the form of natural disturbances. The body and the mind will inflict suffering. That's especially prominent these days. People's minds are so afflicted. Therefore, various kinds of antidepressants, and then people, just to function normally, they have to be taking the proper mix of medicines. Otherwise, their minds will plague them. So the body and mind are inflicting distress. The demigods are causing trouble. Other living entities. But everything is all right. We're thinking everything is fine. Or we're not thinking it's fine, but we don't know what to do. So here the answer is given. Sankirtan is the best way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Murari Gupta says, I have a little garden and it never ceases to amaze me how so many varieties of food come out from the same soil. To say that it's all natural, as if it's no big deal, doesn't do it justice.
Um, yeah, Prabhupada makes that point. So many varieties are coming from the earth. All these tastes are there in the water. Rasoham Apsukantiya, those tastes are Krishna himself, and they're distributed through the land. The land can, and even that, if we're, well, I won't go on about it, but it is wonderful. Those who have gardens, and there are probably also fewer who have gardens in this age, can derive everything from the land. But we have an artificial way of life. We derive everything from the supermarket. And what do we get? Something out of season from another part of the world that's been in shipping and stock for weeks. And we think, yes, beautiful grapes, beautiful this, beautiful that. But if one has one's own garden, then one can appreciate that more directly, how wonderful it is. It's not all that wonderful that all these fruits and vegetables, beautifully waxed and big, appear in the supermarkets. But compared to what Krishna provides, it's really small time. I was in Bulgaria last summer, and the devotees there were telling me that Bulgaria was famous for tomatoes. Still has some reputation, but it was really famous for tomatoes. And the tomatoes were like very big and super juicy. And he showed me one of the old style tomatoes, and it was fragrant, and you could see how I'm not a tomato fan, but how opulent that the tomato was. And that's the kind of tomato that people used to grow as crops and even raise in their gardens. But now those are hardly grown anymore because they're not in demand, because they don't ship well. Those tomatoes don't sit on your shelf for 2 weeks nicely. They're not all of one uniform size. They don't look like the poster tomatoes all round and so on. They're abnormally shaped, irregularly shaped, but they're so opulent. But the farmers don't produce them, or hardly produce them, because there's no, what's the word, corporate demand. So gradually the world becomes like that. You don't get the real thing. I know when BTG was in Alachua, I used to get figs every day from a fig tree, and they were so nice. But hardly anyone was interested. They were getting their fruit from the supermarket. So anyway, by Krishna's arrangement, as Murari was saying, so many wonderful things appear in one's garden with so many tastes. But now you get grapes that are tasteless, tomatoes that are tasteless, papayas that are tasteless, but we're very opulent because we can get things from all over the world. There's a comment there. I used a couple of comments. But it looks like yes, I guess I'll read them. I remember my grandmother, Shanakrishi says, telling me how tomatoes these days don't taste like tomatoes anymore. So yes, that's what it is. And things are not like the way we remember them to be, luscious and so wonderful to eat. We get the commercial variety. And the sort of artificial supply system, everything supplied by big industries. And meanwhile, even rich people, they have, lots of property filled with grass and trees that don't give anything. So, and they think, my lawn is so opulent, my trees are so grand, but they get fruits and vegetables that have no taste, flowers that have no scent, and so on. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just on that point, I was wandering outside and I saw a big blackberry tree, very thick. And those blackberry were so good. So I was just thinking, Krishna is make sure everybody gets this, like for the birds.
Yeah, I grew up catty corner to a meadow where blackberries grew wild, and we could pick as many as we wanted, and they would be what was the word? The program was to see those berries just when they were getting ripe and pick them not too early and get these totally ripe blackberries and take them with milk and sugar and so on. They'd be so tasty. And they wouldn't even cost anything. Now you get, these little plastic boxes of blackberries that have no taste. But by nature's arrangement, if you live properly, you can get so many varieties of things, fruits and grains and vegetables. And then those who know how to do it can can them and dry them and in so many ways make them suitable, even in harsh climates, for taking all year round. So these are all God's arrangements, but we're better. We have our own arrangements, but they're not arrangements for happiness. They're not arrangements for even enjoyment.
And Panch Tattva Prabhu writes, there was a cherry tree growing not far from my home, all alone in a field. At the right time of year, what a treat for a small boy to visit. Yes. Thank you. I would like to invite Saraswati Mataji for our next verse, please.
Text 9.
Yes.
Sindhavo ratnanikaran girayo nam chaturvidham upayanam upajaru sarvaloka sapalakaha. Translation. Prithu was presented with various gifts from the general populace and predominating deities of all planets. The oceans and seas were full of valuable jewels and pearls, and the hills were full of chemicals and fertilizers. 4 kinds of edibles were produced profusely. Purport. As stated in the Upanishad, this material creation is supplied with all the potencies for the production of all necessities required by the living entities, not only human beings, but animals, reptiles, aquatics, and trees. The oceans and seas produce pearls, coral, and valuable jewels so that fortunate law-abiding people can utilize them. Similarly, the hills are full of chemicals, so that when rivers flow down from them, the chemicals spread over the fields to fertilize the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. These are technically known as jarvya, those edibles which are chewed, lihya, those which are licked up, jusya, those which are swallowed, and piya, those which are drunk. Prithu Maharaj was greeted by the residents of other planets and their presiding deities. They presented various gifts to the king and acknowledged him as the proper type of king by whose planning and activities everyone throughout the universe could be happy and prosperous. It is clearly indicated in this verse that the oceans and seas are meant for producing jewels. But in Kali Yuga, the oceans are mainly being utilized for fishing. Sudras and poor men were allowed to fish, but the higher classes, like the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, would gather pearls, jewels, and coral. Although poor men would catch tons of fish, they would not be equal in value to one piece of coral or pearl. In this age, so many factories for the manufacture of fertilizers have been opened. But when the personality of Godhead is pleased by the performance of yajnas, the hills automatically produce fertilizing chemicals, which help produce edibles in the fields. Everything is dependent on the people's acceptance of the Vedic principles of sacrifice. Mukhanantimirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Pranams Param Pujya Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada is letting us know of what the actual norm was and ought to be. And we know we're drifting further and further away from this norm. The gifts of nature, the bounty of nature coming from oceans, hills, they cannot be manufactured in a laboratory or manufactured in a factory. These gifts of nature designed by Krishna are for the systematic and efficient distribution. And the sole purpose is that conditional souls utilize these assets, but according to the Bhagavata Dharma, so that their needs are met and they can devote and focus their energy on purifying their existence and ultimately going back to Godhead. King Prithu's reception and he's honored with valuable gifts from all the presiding deities of each planet is quite suitable for a Raj Rishi like King Prithu, who is able to provide peace, prosperity, and protection for all living entities and ensure that they're all engaged in their respective varna and ashram for their spiritual upliftment. Srila Prabhupada informs us of how in order to carry out successful agriculture, the essential need for having a fertile land is automatically met with by the rich minerals and nutrients that are in perfect balance and flow down from hills and seas and rivers, and that the crops that are produced can be categorized into 4 main kinds of edibles. We sing about this actually in our Guru Ashtaka during Mangla Arti. Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptam Hari Bhakta Sangam Kritveva Triptin Bhajita Sadeva Vande Gurum Shri Charanar Vindam. That these 4 kinds of edibles, the spiritual master, he offers them to Krishna, this delicious food, food that can be chewed, jarvya, licked, liya, sucked or swallowed, jusya, and drunk, piya. So all living entities are supplied with sustenance and they can relish them. But for mankind especially, they have their prescribed edibles according to Bhagavad Dharma. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that, yes, the Sudras do resort to fishing, but higher castes especially would procure their valuable assets in the form of pearls, precious stones, precious metals, corals. We know in Kali Yuga, the supply of these treasures and bounty from the nature will be depleted, and man's propensity in response will be to take, steal, exploit, extort, without any acknowledgement or gratitude expressed in the form of yagyas, and especially in Kali Yuga, the Sankirtan yagya, any fertilizer that we are currently seeing manufactured in factories with the goal to increase food production actually does more harm than any good, as is evident when we see there's an increase in certain terminal diseases, some kinds of cancer. Even with organic farming, ultimately, Srila Prabhupada lets us know it's up to Krishna how much to distribute, how much to withhold. And it all comes down to engaging in our respective Bhagavata Dharma, engaging in bhakti yoga, and pleasing Krishna with our activities. I was listening to a class by Srila Prabhupada today where he talked about this Kali Yuga. He said there were going to be an increase in the updravas, that people are going to be more and more unhappy. And he said, Prayana alpa ayusha kalav ashmin yuga jana. So the duration of life is decreasing, alpa ayush. And all kinds of, people are becoming dim-witted, dim intellect, slow. Manda, matayo, manda, sumanda, matoyo, manda, Bhagavati Updrata. So he was saying that people are very unfortunate and manufacture their own religion, and whatever the popular opinion is, that's the way to go. Whatever goes, do whatever feels right. So these are some of the nonsense that people in Kali Yuga are going to be embroiled in more and more. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So we are coming at the end. So I would like Venkatesh Prabhu for the kirtan, please.
Sorry, Prabhu, not ready yet.
Oh, okay. All right. How about Panchatattva Prabhu?
Something in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Let's see what we have. Comment from Maharaj, but I don't see any comment here.
That's if Maharaj had
Yeah, I think we are getting at the end of the time. So
Yeah, time is up, so no time for comments.
yes.
Well, I have a very brief comment that these purports were written at a time before the present environmental consciousness came into vogue. This present wave of environmentalism seems to me to have started sometime in the 1970s, 1980s, and Prabhupada was writing these purports before that really took hold with full consciousness of real environmentalism, not severed from Krishna, but seeing the environment as Krishna's energy and seeing that we have to satisfy Krishna, whose energy it is, in order to be happy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Nanta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhar, Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shyamakund, Radhakund, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gora Premanande. Haribol.
Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu, for nice kirtan. And also like to thank Shauna Krishi Prabhu and Shraddha for joining. And also Lakshmana. Thank you. And thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahesh Pandit.
Haribol.
Thank you to all Prabhus. Thank you so much.
Jayādvaita Swami Maharaj.
Yeah.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Yeah.
Gaur Premanande.
Haribol.
Hari Hari Bo.